Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Today, I want to talk about a phenomenon that happens so often and it's so misunderstood. When an avoidant loves you, they usually pull back. I'm just going to say that up front. The way it's pulled back is kind of different than if someone's disinterested. But why do avoidants, when they love you, why do they usually pull back and why is it a good thing? I think this is important because it helps you to process what's happening. I notice with a lot of you guys and calls that I've had, and by the way, if you've had a call with me, if you have a second call with me, you don't have to write all the details starting from the beginning. You can just give me the new details. You don't need to worry about it. I remember all of my cases, so please do not worry. And if you want to call with me, that's pinned in the description box. It's a good way to understand the relationship that you're having because I can help you to determine what's going on so that you don't waste your time. But regardless, I hope this video is still a helpful resource to anybody who needs that resource as soon as possible. What we are seeing is that when avoidants love you, they do pull back because of a couple reasons. And what we actually end up seeing is when they pull back and you're in that dynamic, which is what I was talking about earlier, you can kind of tell this is happening. But I notice with a lot of you guys, you doubt yourself. You doubt yourself even though there's a party that kind of knows that this is what's happening. And someone who's not interested in you, you will not have any of these small, subtle signs. They will just pull back because they're not interested. You won't have a lot of the things that we're about to talk about. And so if you notice any of these, this is probably a sign that it's not a person who's disinterested. It's probably an avoidant and they like you, which it sounds so different. But you have to remember, avoidant attachment style is not, people throw it around as a term to make people feel better. That's not what it is. Avoidant attachment style is a very real phenomenon. I know it sounds like it's a cop-out or we're just trying to make excuses. That's not true. If they are truly an avoidant, this happened when they were young. It has nothing to do with you. They behaved like this when they were a child. And a lot of avoidants, they don't like the term avoidant, but they definitely know that they have some behaviors. You can ask them. I used to be avoidant. I know when I was younger, this was something that a lot of people pointed out about me all the time. Even you guys, before I told you I was an avoidant, you guys were always like, you don't have much emotions or expressions. Were you avoidant? Or you seem to know a lot about avoidance. Did you used to be avoidant? And yes, I used to be. Because avoidants have awareness that some of this stuff is what they struggle with, whether they want to admit it or not. Just like if you're an anxious preoccupied, you know that you can sometimes be really anxious about certain things. Maybe you know your typical patterns. You fall in love with someone who's a little bit more detached. Like you know that. If you're fearful avoidant, you know that you get really anxious about certain things and maybe you sabotage relationships. You know that. Whether you want to admit it or not, there's a part of you that knows. Avoidants know they battle between commitment and freedom, and that's actually the first one. They're processing that battle. They're processing the battle between commitment and freedom. Freedom is not just, I get to do what I want. That's not what freedom is. In fact, it's not really that much of that at all. Freedom is an identity. If you have freedom and you're independent, that is the way that they, as kids, got praise and connection from their parents. I can give myself as an example. When I was growing up, my dad, he is avoidant and my mom's anxious. They're divorced now. But both of them had a viewing of me that probably made me much more avoidant than maybe I was if this wasn't my experience. My dad expected a lot from me and he treated it as a good thing. It's not a bad thing. In fact, that's why this is so difficult. Being independent was praised. Avoidants were praised that way. Anxious, preoccupied, and fearful avoidance, some of them, but especially anxious, preoccupied, they were praised to be the person who gives. They were taught sacrifice is the right thing. You're good if you sacrifice, if you give in, right? That's not the way avoidants are taught. In fact, if you sacrifice, you are reprimanded. Why are you doing that? Why are you acting weak? Don't do that. You're supposed to show up. You're supposed to be the strong one. That's how it's supposed to be. It's completely different. If you look at an anxious preoccupied's background, and some of you guys have anxious preoccupied attachment, we talked about this in our sessions before. If you've had a session with me, we explore that a little bit. When you look at your background, you realize that you were taught, whether directly or indirectly, that saying nothing and and fearful avoidance as well, but fearful avoidance, they would get a much more stronger reaction. We've actually had a video on this recently where you not speaking up for yourself is good. That's where you get love and affection and care. You get punished otherwise. Avoidants are the other way around completely. You get punished for being caring, being kind. Not because you can be kind, but you have to have certain boundaries because that's what makes you strong. And usually avoidants are angled in a certain way where you're expected to hold up for other people in your life. And so avoidants are really used to commitment being pressure. right? If you commit to your family, even if you're a child, if you commit to this promise, a lot of people are leaning on you. I remember my mom leaned on me a lot. She's gotten so much better, but like, even to this day, she's always like, the only person I can rely on is you. I can't rely on anyone else. You're the only person I trust with certain decisions. And that's a good thing, but it's also a lot of pressure. She's worked on it. She's really improved with that. But ever since I was young, that was a pressure. And so that commitment and freedom is what they're battling. And you might know that because you might hear them talk about some things that I just described to you. If that's familiar, you're probably dealing with an avoidant. The next one is they're processing if they're enough for you. That's the other thing about avoidance. They always feel like they're not enough. It's a really deep wound, and not enough in a way they're not lovable. They're not resourceful enough. They're not strong enough. They're not good enough. And if you can say anything along the lines of, I appreciate you. You are making so much effort. You're making time for me. That means so much to me. I know how much you're showing up, how much you're working on this. That is enough for them to kind of get out of this one. Process if they're enough for you because you just said they were. That's really all they need. The next one is a little bit different. They're processing if they can meet, if you can meet their need for space. And this one you can do easily as well. Easily in terms of, okay, not easily, simply is a better way to put it. This can be hard for a lot of people actually. They want to see if you can meet their need for space because avoidants have a need for space. Really, it's not as much as you might think. But the interesting part is a lot of people are so afraid at how much space they need. And so they almost give too much space when in actuality, a true avoidant doesn't need like a year to know something, right? If you're in a committed type of relationship, they might literally need a year to label the relationship. They might need more. But what I mean is they're not going to need space of not talking to you at all and then they return. Some avoidants do that, but that's not enough commitment for anyone. And that's not a healthy relationship. There are plenty of avoidants that just need like a day. They need a couple days. They might need a couple weeks. I can admit that some avoidants are like that. But normally they return and they're fine. And sometimes they're even more connected. And so if you can meet their need for space, you are honest, you're open, you're still there when they return, you're not angry, but you can still have a conversation once that dies down when the rapport is built again. But you are still understanding that this happens to them. It's difficult. I'm not saying it's an easy relationship, but I'm also saying that being with an avoidant can be really rewarding because a lot of times once they commit, they're really, they take a lot of this time because they're very loyal people. Not all of them, I will be honest. Every person is different, but it's important to know that a lot of avoidants are loyal and they care and they love really deeply, which is why they're very careful about who they let in. The next one is they just need time to reflect if their fear of failure is something they can overcome to some extent. Relationships, you will fail. Every person in a relationship will fail to some extent. Some people just don't care. It doesn't bother them. But avoidance, they care. If you say, I feel really upset how you reacted, first of all, you're allowed to say that. In fact, you should. They will feel like a failure, but they have to process that in order to be in a relationship. So they're just trying to figure out, can they do that? And normally, if you give them enough time and they process and they realize that they love you, they'll get there. The next one is there is a shift of identity and values, okay? This is important, and this one can take time depending on where they are on their healing journey. It's a good thing, though, because you want them to take time on this one. They have to admit that they're not the self-sufficient, strong person they used to be. This one's really hard because loving you proves that that's not really true. Because they need things from you too. When you love someone, you feel their absence. That means you need them to respond to you. That means you need them to be next to you. You miss them when they're outside of your bed. You need that. That means that they have needs that another person has to meet. They can't meet themselves. When they love you, they can feel that. You probably can't feel it because they're hiding it, but they know it. They know that if you don't answer the message, they feel it. They know that if you haven't visited them in a while, they feel it. And that identity is really hard to face. But it's really important to understand that as long as you are balanced, that you are calm, that you communicate clearly, they're going to start accepting this is okay. It's okay to need this person. And the last one is similar. They're processing those immense feelings they have for you. They're basically untangling it from all their fears. Love is a really strong emotion. And as you guys know, avoidants are not that good at processing emotions. So then what do you do if you're an avoidant and you feel this way? You have to do the technique you're familiar with. When you feel stressed at work, what do avoidants do? They pull away a little bit. When someone said something mean to them, they pull away a little bit just to process it. So then what do they do if they're having an immense emotion? even if it's love, they pull away a little bit just to untangle those feelings. And I just want you to understand that if you remain calm and you're available when they return, you can still have a conversation that you're not totally satisfied with the length of it, sure, but eventually. Firstly, you want to show up as someone calm and regulated, because it's not just going to help this relationship. It's going to help anytime you run into a relationship like this, because even if your next partner, if you choose to leave this person, if they break up or you break up with them and you go with someone else, you might end up in the situation because someone's grieving and they're not an avoidant. You will have moments where there is a moment where you need to give a person space. And especially if you are going to be with this person, you get married to them. Yes, they will improve throughout this time, but it's also really important to realize that it's going to be hard and you're going to have to pick up these skills regardless. It's going to help you either way. It's going to help you manage yourself. And while they're taking space, you can also take time to process, is this person right for you? Do you want to be with this person? It's good for both of you guys from that standpoint. And so let's summarize and we'll wrap it up. They're processing their internal battle between commitment and freedom. They're processing if they're enough for you. They're processing if you can meet their need for space. They're reflecting if they can challenge that fear of failure. They're reflecting their identity shift and values, and they're processing their feelings for you. If you want to call with me, that's pinned in the description box. I hope this video was helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.